Hello and welcome to Under the 128 episode 2. We're back. I'm Alex Moss and joining me it is the darting nerd Matthew Kiernan. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Lots to talk about. And we haven't been expunged and put in the dustbin after one episode. So that's good. So thank you to everyone that watched or listened. It's great news.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good to get some nice feedback from you guys. Thanks very much for that. From episode 1, 4 weeks ago, I just had a look. We recorded that start of June. We were all hoping June 21st was when it was going to be party time. We're all going to be let loose in the UK. It's been pushed back a little bit, but there has still been plenty going on underneath the 128 PDC tour card holders, and it's going to be my catchphrase on this show. Next slide, please.
Let me seamlessly share the screen. So, big news from the WDF. We didn't have much to talk about last time, and then we got a nice message from Richard Attow suggesting that we would have something to talk about this time round, and we do. And of course, it is the news that their first World Championship will be held on January the 1st to the 9th. Dates, interesting discussion point very shortly, I'm sure we'll talk about, with expanded fields and a TV deal. So it's incredible news. And of course, the disclaimer at this point is to say, friend of the show, Andrew Sinclair, has Inside the WDF podcast, and you should absolutely go and subscribe to that for anything WDF related. So what was your reaction, Alex?
I was pleased. I've got to say, when the news came out, I think like a lot of darts fans, it was surprised really that the news had come out, because there was no inkling that it was going to be the World Championship. It was going to be Lakeside 2022 as well. So 6 months time, start of next year, we're going to have this first World Championship under the WDF. And as we've said on this show before, it's hard for organisations to get things going at the moment because we are in this pandemic, which is a global thing, and it varies from country to country. And when you've got a tour like the WDF and they want to put on their big events, you need to have events on all around the world so players can pick up those ranking points. But yeah, I think when the news came out, a lot of excitement among darts fans, particularly because this is a follow-on from the BDO, isn't it, that held this tournament for a very long time, and the WDF have said for a long time that they want to take over. The BDO's gone and they want to put on these big events for the players around the world, bring all these players together for these big events. And the Lakeside is an iconic venue. I know we've joked in the last 12 months that Milton Keynes is the new home of World Darts, but we all know that the Lakeside is the home of World Darts. It's hosted the World Championship, the BDO one, for a lot of years. Of course, didn't host the one in 2020. It moved to the Indigo at the O2. But yeah, I think for a starting point, it is very good. And as we've touched there on the slide, you've got expanded fields, 48 players for the men, 24 for the ladies. And we don't know the full criteria yet, but it sounds like there's going to be a lot of opportunities for players all around the world to be involved in this event, which again is a good thing.
It's very good news for the ladies' game in particular, I think, because what we easily forget is that when the video did fold, is that there is no World Championship. There was no World Championship for the ladies in which to aim for. Yes, the PDC have been have been getting better in relation to offering a grand total of 2 for their World Championship, and having the one a year women's Super Series. Very generous, but it's going in the right direction. But there does need to be a women's tour, absolutely. So that's very exciting. Probably have to talk about the dates here, because that was the big discussion point. When the first thing it was announced, one of the famous darts commentators, on one of the more prominent darts commentators on Twitter, immediately jumping on that and saying, well, can't possibly have it on those dates because it clashes with the PDC's semi-finals, which apparently this is a really big issue. I think you and I are fairly agreed on this, that it's not. Is it really that much of an issue? Because there always was. I went back and had a look at some of the crossover dates up until 2016. There was always a crossover of dates, and then for whatever reason after that there was a couple of days gap. I think ultimately people are going to be wanting to watch lots of darts at that time. It's the time of the year to do it. So I don't think it's that much of an issue.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. You only have to. I think when I first went to Ali Pali for press, it was 5 years ago, something like that, and I was in the press room watching the darts. I think it was semi-finals night actually, and one of the commentators, I think it was Rod Studd, he was watching the darts as well. It wasn't the game that he was commentating on, but he also had an iPad, a tablet set up, watching the Lakeside at the same time. So yeah, there's always been that crossover for a lot of years between the two tournaments. And I think if the two finals were clashing, so you had the PDC final and the WDF final on the same day, the same session, then we'd be coming out here saying, what are you guys playing at? But you've got to look at it. You've got what we're going to have 17, maybe 18 sessions for this WDF World Championship. We don't know the schedule for the PDC one yet. They could play their final on January the 1st, which they've done before. Could be the 2nd, could be the 3rd. I don't think it's going to be any further forward than that. So you're only taking out a maximum of 3 days, and out of those sessions, a maximum of 3 sessions. And you're going to get all those new darts fans from the PDC World Championship that will have discovered darts for the first time, all those casual fans. And one of the big questions they always ask is, oh, when's the next darts on? I want to watch the next tournament. Well, how does this afternoon sound watching it on Eurosport? Darts at the Lakeside, which a lot of people will remember. So yeah, you're always going to get clashes in darts. I think it's just how you manage that with all the different other organisations we've seen, as we spoke on the last show. There is unfortunately going to be clashes for the players with all these various tournaments that are going on, and it's up to the players now to pick and choose which one they want to go to. But I think the clash, yeah, I think it was a little bit of an overreaction from some people, but you've only got to look at it. You're going to get a lot of darts fans off the back of that PDC World Championship that are going to be watching this one, and that can only be a good thing for the WDF.
Yeah, it's going to be more. What a great insight that Rod Studd watched Lakeside on his tablet. That's fantastic. Well, that will probably be the case again this time round. Of course, the other big news, of course, was it is going back to Lakeside. So it's probably worth us having a wider discussion about Lakeside. So I've produced some slides here is a sort of a love letter to Lakeside. So of course the year, Alex, is 1997. Football has come home at this point, or it nearly came home. It didn't. We know that which way it goes, which way that went. So it's January 97. I'm flicking through the channels. Oh, what's this? I'm 8 years old at this point. Okay. Oh, it's Dougie Donnelly. Dougie Donnelly's come on the screen. God, what is this? What's this? What are all those chandeliers in the background? And then on comes Marshall James, waving the Welsh flag while all the players. This is great. I love the fact that all the players are on the right hand side, cheering him on as he gets onto the stage for the final. Rapturous cauldron of noise in Lakeside. I thought, this is amazing. What on earth is this? And then there's everyone cheering, and then on comes the people playing bagpipes. Well, why don't we have this anymore? Because then on comes Les Wallace in a kilt, no less, with waving the Scottish flag, surrounded by maroon blazers. There's Andy Fordham there on the left of that picture, actually. I thought this is absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, they played darts, and then, of course, it completely came on in. So that was my first experience of Lakeside, and thousands of people, I'm sure, possibly tens of thousands of people probably had similar experiences of seeing it on terrestrial television when there was only 5 channels, when it was part of the staple viewing in January, and fell in love with the game from then on in. So, from a historical, iconic point of view, great news that it's going back to Lakeside. There is a but coming, but we'll come to that in a second. What's your first Lakeside memory, Alex?
I'm going to have to fast forward only 10 years after that, from 1997 to 2007. And it's got to be the final, one of the best finals ever in any Darts World Championship. Martin Adams, Phil Nixon, Martin Adams 6-0 up. Phil Nixon comes back after the interval, levels it up at 6-all. And I just remember watching it on the BBC because I didn't really watch much of the tournament, but I remember watching the final, and I think I kind of got hooked on it a little bit that tournament because Phil Nixon had a striking resemblance to one of my uncles, and we always used to joke, oh, how's our uncle getting on in the darts? And he made it all the way to the final. So I thought, I better watch the final. And when he was 6-0 down, I thought, well, he's not going to win it, is he? But to get it back to 6-all was unbelievable. And the drama, I remember Tony Green in the commentary, they always, the cameras went to Martin's partner and Sharon, I think it was. And as Phil was bringing back the set 6-1, 6-2, and she was going, yeah, you're still quite confident. And 6-all, I think she actually left the Lakeside, and think Tony Green was going, Sharon has left the building or something. It was, yeah, it was good fun. Yeah, that was my first memory of watching the Lakeside 2007.
It's peak Tony Green now.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, yes, and I'm sure listeners and viewers will have their own Lakeside favorite Lakeside memories, and that's because it's just a very special venue. But, and this is the but. So, we're at risk of rewriting history, like the government and the pandemic, because when the BDO announced, and Des Jacklin announced that the World Championships was moving away from Lakeside to the Indigo O2, what we and obviously now we know that was terrible decision. It took away the fans, and obviously that affected the prize money. We all know what happened there, and then the BDO folded. Fine. We know that now, but at the time, it was actually quite split in terms of public opinion. So there were a significant number of people who thought it was a good move, and including some very prominent dance commentators on social media who then changed their mind as soon as they could see which way the wind was going. They shall remain nameless. So here are two comments which I think perfectly summarize the issues that basically surround Lakeside as a venue itself. So these are, I've redacted the naughty words which were in these posts. These were on some of the Facebook fanatics groups. There's a couple of fanatics groups. So I'm going to read them out. So anything has got to be better than, well, that's a typo, isn't it? Better than that expletive Lakeside lager. How you could charge people for that is beyond me. Lakeside will always be an iconic venue, but can't keep limping on like an old out-of-date dinosaur. So, you know, they say what you think. That's what I say. Now, you know, we're having a laugh about that, but it does cut to the heart of the issue of, unfortunately, Lakeside as a venue has seen better days. And it's, I guess, the issue that the WDF has going forwards is it's weighing up the, well, yes, it's iconic, and yes, you've got a guaranteed audience there that will make that pilgrimage every January, regardless of what the venue is like, because it's tradition, versus, well, you know, it could do with a lick of paint. I don't think that's controversial to say, and it's probably seen better days as a venue. And is that the sort of thing that we want for our organisation? Not easy. I think that, you know, jury's out until January. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, we're aiming to be there as media, and we'll just have to draw conclusions after that. But yeah, it's certainly something they're going to have to consider.
Yeah, and I think it is a worthwhile conversation to have, because the Lakeside, it has been a venue for a lot of years, and yeah, you have got the people that are saying, is it time to move on? I think I've always said, when the BDO moved from the Lakeside to the O2, and when we look back on it now with hindsight, I kind of felt that it was the right move, but the wrong time. They didn't have any, I guess the word's momentum, they didn't have anything going for them to take them into a new venue, to build that new venue, get the crowds in there, and especially it coming off the back of the infamous World Masters, the redraw, when a lot of darts fans lost faith with the BDO. A lot of players as well that played in that tournament, they lost faith with the BDO that week. So they didn't really have anything positive for them going into a new venue, and you need that. But I think the Lakeside, it is the right move for this first one. I don't know how long the WDF are planning on staying there, but I think it's going to be, as I said to Burton when we spoke about this news when it first broke, it's a safe pair of hands, isn't it? It's a safe venue to go to. A lot of the people involved in the WDF will have been involved in the BDO when they're at Lakeside, and it's going to be a massive week for them to put on their first World Championship. So to go to a venue that they all know, they know how it all works there. They know they're going to get a lot of darts fans in for this, because there'll be a lot of people that want to go to the Lakeside. It's an iconic venue, as we've said. But going forward, can I see it being there in 5 or 10 years? I think that a lot of that is going to depend on where the WDF is as an organisation. I know, speaking to Richard Ashdown and a few of the guys there, they've got a lot of plans on what they want to do with the WDF. They don't want to compete with the PDC, but they want to be their own thing, put on some big events, grow the word of darts, put on different events around the world. And their World Championship, I think, is going to be one of those events where they look to move it around. We've seen the World Masters. That's going to be in the Netherlands this December, COVID permitting, of course, with all these events. But I think we could see in the future that their World Championship, if the WDF does build that brand awareness and it can sell out bigger venues, then I think that's what they're going to do. But I think for this first one, I think it's safe to go to the Lakeside and get that guaranteed big crowd in. But I think going forward, we could see it maybe move somewhere else.
Absolutely. And it'll be very interesting to see how it goes in the Netherlands, won't it? Which is very much an untapped market in relation to this. And so we come to your favourite league, Alex, the online darts league, which is going to be around for a while, I think, based on the news. So we've finally had Champions Week since our last conversation, and Richie Burnett won that as well. So he won the Taster event, and he won the Champions Week as well. And I think and also just. He got very close to a 9-darter, and some really, plethora of new names getting involved in it as well, including Terry Jenkins and Dieter Hedman, who have started this week. It's been great to see them in action in it. I think the thing I want to say about this is that, the Champions Week standard was really very, very good, actually. And although I certainly take the point of what people of critics have said in terms of, well, it can get a bit repetitive in the week. Very good for the players, of course, but as spectacle, obviously that's for the neutral fan. That's what they've been saying. Champions Week is really good because, of course, what do we enjoy the most? We enjoy seeing tournaments going from the very beginning all the way through to their conclusion, and to see the all-stars basically in that last week, the Avengers was very good indeed, and the standard was very, very high indeed. Obviously the criticism of the fact that it finished very late in the early in the morning is still rings true, sadly, but because if it finished at 2 or 3 in the morning, that's at least 5 hours after my bedtime.
Yeah, I mean, I did really try to stay up for the finale on that Saturday because, as we said, one of the criticisms of this thing, of the online league has been, what's the end goal? Are they just going to keep playing on and on and on and on? But you've got the Champions Week and the prize fund as well, £5,000 for the winner, £10,000 for that Champions Week, the finale. So it's a big pot of money for these guys to be playing for. And Richie Burnett picking up the title, and I've got to pick out some of the performances that he had on that final night. You said that the standard went up. It certainly did for him. 108 average in one of his group games against Chas Barstow, 104 average against Sean McDonald in the final, and that 9-darter, I think it was around 130, 145. You're missing double 18 for a 9-darter. Fair play to Richie Burnett. He's still got it. And I've got to mention Sean McDonald as well, who he beat in the final. He's someone that he's a former world youth master, 2002, took a long break away from the game. He came back, went to Q School at the start of this year as an unknown really to a lot of darts fans. I certainly didn't know the name, but he put in some impressive performances there, didn't get his tour card, played on this online league quite a bit, and he's really shown that he is a quality player, and I think he's got a very bright future in the game. We don't know where that's going to go for the next 6 months or so. Probably going to see him on the Challenge Tour, the UK one, when that starts next month, but the way he's going, I think he has got a very bright future in the game. And he's part of the big five as well. They've got some good players in that stable, a good group of players there as well. So yeah, he's definitely one to watch out for. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the names. Terry Jenkins, Dieter Hedman involved this week. Neil Duff, I really want to see how he gets on. It's been a long time since I've seen him play. He's always good fun to watch. Kevin Painter, he's of course going to be in the World Seniors. Andy Smith, the Pie Man, not seen him for a long time either. So it's good that they're getting some more familiar names, if you like. But on the flip side as well, the mad online qualifiers, we've started to see some of them playing it as well. So the opportunities are there for these players, despite not a lot of things going on at the moment.
Well, yeah, and Rob Wickwood, who was an MAD qualifier from an online. I mean, there's an argument to say Rob Wickwood should be in it anyway, actually, because he's always performs very well on the challenge tour whenever I end up watching one of his games on the Dart Connect system. But yeah, he's I believe he's through to the finale tomorrow night, which is pretty good because obviously the end goal is to qualify for the Saturday night finale. Yeah, so it's very good standard, and there's no doubt that these guys are at a huge advantage for when the Challenge Tour does start back up again, when these other events do start back up again, because there isn't much going on at the moment, and it is consistent practice in front of TV cameras. And obviously last year, naming some of the names that don't get mentioned often, but Boris Koltsov and Scott Mitchell and Keen Barry and Dave Evans and obviously Richie Edhouse. These are the guys that won cards, having played all the it was called Modus then, wasn't it? But yeah, the Modus league. I know we don't want to get in trouble. So there's no doubt in my mind that we are seeing the tour card holders of next year in amongst this batch, really, and they're going to improve because of the fact they've been in this. The wider discussion, which has come up, because of course this league isn't going away now. This is going to be here for, well, forever, I think, from what we gather. Or certainly this year, 40 weeks, isn't it? Is that right?
Yes, yeah, 40 weeks.
Yeah, so it is with us, and of course, one of the discussions, Matador Darts has put this on his YouTube channel. People can go and have a look at it, and it was discussing, well, what's it for? And of course, you look at that photo behind you. This is an interesting discussion. You look at that photo behind Richie sorry, not Richie Edhouse. I'm going mad. Richie Burnett. Well, that's every bookmaker known to man, isn't it? There, and of course, that's what was one of the thrust of the argument of, well, hang on a minute. What is this just purely for gambling? And of course, we have to admit that the betting sites are, of course, the primary funders for this, and the primary funders of the prize money, and why it exists, basically. And I just wonder whether we need to become at peace with that. And I was just thinking about in relation to the PDC. So here's Manscaped. Now we're not bitter, because Manscaped I infamously did an advert read for this, and people can find that on my social media, because Manscaped did sponsor the weekly Dartscast. They don't anymore, sadly. We cried ourselves to sleep when that happened. But now they are sponsors with the PDC. Got this hilarious email actually this is on the Friday before Father's Day, and it was saying, buy a Manscaped shaver for your dad. I mean, I wonder how many people actually did that. I think if I bought
that's a great deal there.
If I bought a Manscaped shaver for my dad, I think he'd think I've completely lost the plot, I have to say. Yeah, that was one of the best emails I think I've had. Then of course the PDC have got they've got official water now, so this was news that came out yesterday. Let's make sure it's on the right table, of course. or make sure the players are pouring it into the right glass, eh? But the comments on that was great, by the way, in relation to the water. No alcohol. Not on stage. I'm
determined to be the first one to ask Rob Cross what does he think of the official water partner of the PDC, because I know he loves a glug of water on the stage.
He does. That's very well. It's important to stay hydrated. And Joe Davis in the online darts league, but after every throw, Joe Davis I get on with very well because I help him with his social media. He drinks water. It goes back to his, drinks water, goes back and throws every single time. It's absolutely brilliant. But I think the wider issue here is the PDC now moving towards non-alcohol, non-betting based partners. And if we're now in a situation where we're saying, oh well, we can't watch that live darts league because it's supports gambling. Well, where does that leave us with all the other PDC events? These are the other PDC events on your screen at the moment. And with the exception of Kazoo, which is vehicle hire.
Yeah.
I had to Google that. All of them are bookmakers. All of them. So, that is also encouraging betting, is it not? So it's a really tough, I don't know what the answer is. It's a really tough discussion. I mean, obviously they are funding the darts that we love. And I guess it's just a case of, I mean, I don't really know where I stand with it really, because it's a case of, hoping that people do it responsibly, and hopefully they don't get sucked into to the more serious side of gambling, and the one that's very harmful. I don't know what you make of that.
Yeah, it is a tricky one, but it is a conversation, a discussion worth having. I'll go back to the end of January. I think the first time I saw it was in the Sunday Times. They put the story out first that gambling logos, they could be banned from sports shirts. It was mainly to do with football, but it did include darts as well. Now, I don't know when that's going to come into place, but I guess that was seen as a big red flag for the PDC, because as you see from this picture on here, you've got a lot of those tournaments, a lot of the big tournaments. You think of all the amount of prize money that's on offer in all these tournaments, and we don't know the percentage how much these bookmakers put into that, but it's got to be a fair whack anyway. But I think that was a sign for the PDC, right? We need to maybe explore other different avenues, and Kazoo, that is a big one to get things off. You've got 3 events there, all sponsored by something that isn't to do with gambling. You've got the World Cup, the European Championship, Grand Slam. It's a good step in the right direction. I think it's a tough one to say, because gambling has been involved in the PDC for the last 15, 20 years, something like that, and they've sponsored a lot of the big events, and they have really helped push darts forward, push the prize money on. And if it weren't for them, would we be in this position where we are now with the PDC? It is a tough one, but I think, times do change. You look back, we spoke about Lakeside earlier. A lot of people refer to that as the embassy. So it's something that does change. The smoke ban on advertising with the smoking. Darts had to move on from that, moved on to the gambling. And this is just, I think, going to be another step that darts and the PDC especially are going to have to take over the years. But I think while the money's still there, they will take it, of course, but they are obviously looking at other brands that they can get on board.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the reasons why I believe there is a ban on gambling and alcohol sponsorship in the Netherlands. I think that's right, and that, of course, is one of the reasons why perhaps we haven't seen that market exploited as much as we might have thought it would have been up until this point. So MAD, it's been we've started to see a few MAD COVID secure opens pre restrictions lifting, but also the big news, of course, is that they've had their first international event in Gibraltar, and much kudos to them for getting any international darts on in these difficult in this difficult period for international travel, which looks set to continue really. They've got their Contender Series later on in the month, and of course Wayne Warren is back in action defending his title belt. Oh yes, can't talk about MAD without talking about the belts against Jared Cole, who's been in live league action this week. What stood out for you in relation to MAD?
I guess really that week in Gibraltar, because as you say, we've not seen a lot of events, darts going on underneath the PDC, and it was an ambitious project for them to put on all these events. They had I think they worked with the guys at Phoenix Darts. They had the JDC Virtual World Championship. They had a soft tip event. They had a steel tip event, a team event, I think, during the weeks. They had a lot of different events going on. So it was good to see them put all those events on. They will go ahead as planned, and I'm not quite sure what the numbers were, but there are a few familiar faces that we've seen in the past go to these events. And it's it's just a step for them in the right direction. I guess they've been able to put all these events on. And as we said at the top of the show, the restrictions in the UK, they've been held back a little bit, so they've not been able to really push forward yet. But we have seen a few events go on, and it's now waiting time really for that 19th of July and this contender series that is coming after that 4 days later. So hopefully we will see those restrictions lifted and we'll have a good crowd in for that event. I believe tickets are still available for that, and there's a decent lineup on there. You got some good names on there: Wayne Warren, Jim Williams, Jamie Lewis. Be nice to see him involved. Daryl Fitton, a lot of some good names there to go and watch. And the title belts, that's a big thing for Mad. And really, it's only going to be something that does start to take off when you can get the crowds in the building and you can start to build these things up. So yeah, hopefully we'll see that happen in a few weeks' time, and we'll see all these opens, leagues, events get on, and maybe start to see some rankings appear as well.
Yeah, just in relation to the Gibraltar event, I thought that the coverage of the Gibraltar event was very, very good. So obviously it was all on Dart Connect, and a shout out, of course, to Matt Langan, friend of the show, from Darts Atlas, and they used his Dart Atlas software technology for the Open, and or was it the Open or one of the competitions anyway, and it was very well received. So it's great that there's new partnerships forming there, and one of the tweets that stood out for me from Steve Brown was the fact that obviously entry numbers were low. We know that entry numbers were low because of everything that was been going on in the world, and despite that, all the prize money was paid out as perfectly normal. And of course, given what happened with the PTO, that's no guarantee now, is it? Suddenly, obviously, of course, prize money should be paid out, but of course, we know what happened there. And despite that, the winner, Matt Jackson, he won $5,000 for that. It's not bad, is it? And then he went straight from that to the Pro Series the following week. And I don't know whether you saw, it was on one of the stream games. Didn't have a very good week, actually, unfortunately, results wise. But he wore his sort of winning medallion that he won in the warm up, and I thought, oh my god, he's not going to wear that for the whole match, is he? I mean, it's like wearing the gold chain if you're a rapper.
People were probably thinking that was Wesley Harms. We had the medallion. Maybe he's making a comeback.
Yes, we'd like to see Wesley Harms. I don't know. We still don't know what's happened to Wesley Harms, do we? Yeah. So, but then Matt Jackson did take it off, thank God. And then he played his match. But I thought that was quite a nice acknowledgement from him for the previous week. I guess with MAD, remember I'm a Titan and you're an Eagle. I have to get that right. Which is not a sentence I thought I'd ever say. So, and we're going to have a competition, remember, to get the most MAD points when this thing really does kick off. I guess what we haven't seen yet is on their website results from the last couple of weeks' events, and we haven't seen rankings yet. I would have expected to have, it's not by no means a criticism, but I would have expected to have seen that. But we haven't yet. I'm sure we will, and that will be a big selling point of what MAD have to offer. So I think that's their next thing really that they need to work on. I've no doubt that that's coming, but yeah, I mean it's not there yet. So obviously we have to reserve judgment until we see that. Just a few MAD results, by the way, just off the top of my head. Brian Dawson's been winning everything in the sort of Chesterfield-Rotherham region. Stevie Buck does a very good job of promoting that on Twitter, so fair play to him. Simon Whitlock won the Basingstoke Open, beating Andy Jenkins in the final. And then at Hastings, Danny Baggish beat Diogo Portela in Hastings. So, Brian Dawson, you would say, well, yes, that's exactly who MAD should be aiming at in terms of that chasing power. Fortunately, the other two were won by pros. So it's like, that's not quite what we were going for. But yeah, the points still get distributed, of course. But yeah, so I think there's an encouraging start, but obviously lots more to come, and we wait to see what happens. And then, of course, we also wait for what's going to happen with the UK UKDA. And so far, we're hoping that it's still going to go ahead in the middle of September. They've got a big AGM in the middle of August. And then, of course, we've got this statement from Johnny Stefano, which I'll read a bit of in a second. But any UKDA thoughts at this point, Alex?
No, I don't think there's really been much that's gone on since we last spoke. I remember when we spoke on the first episode we did, there was the big fallout from the Welsh darts organisation. They were saying that they were, well, I guess, threatening to leave and do their own thing and, yeah, I guess have another split, if you like. I don't know if there's been much that's gone on since then, if there's been any conversations, but just looking at this statement from Johnny, it kind of looks like okay, we're getting close to the start now. I know a lot of people have been waiting to play. You look there, you've got approximately 10,000 players in this system, play this system of darts. They've been waiting a long time to get going. Maybe some people are getting itchy feet, itching to go again, and it's just, give us the chance. You've voted us in. Let us show you, let us prove to you why it was the right decision to put us in. So, it could be expected. A lot of people are waiting to play again. Some people saying, oh, was it the right thing to do? But I think you do have to give the UKDA, give these guys the chance to show what they can do, because so far what they've been able to show, what they've put together has looked, a lot better than what the BDO did, in terms of their website and how they present things. It's been they've done all they can so far without anyone throwing any darts. So, yeah, I think it is a statement really putting out there to say, let us show you what we can do.
Yeah, I think the key line that stood out for me was that the UKDA are not out to compete with any other organisation or here to administer two specific areas of darts that many felt have been long neglected by the previous administrations, namely inter-county and Super League darts. The opportunity to do this was the initial reason the UKDA to throw its hat into the ring after the BDO's unfortunate demise. And I think that's the key paragraph. And I think what's quite good at the moment, because of course things haven't really kicked into gear, fully yet due to restrictions. But the one thing that Richard Ashdown, Steve Brown, Johnny Stefano all have is they're all very positive. They're all very passionate about darts. They've been around darts, and they want the best for the game. And they ultimately, I think it's fair to say, all want to leave it in a stronger position, a couple of years down the line than it is at the moment. So fair play to them. So hopefully it still continues to be a fairly harmonious situation between all the organizations, not really treading on each other's toes, and hopefully working together and for the good of darts. Fingers crossed. Hopefully it'll stay like that, but you never quite know, do you, in darts? But when we don't know what's happened with the Welsh Darts organization and what's going to happen then, I guess we have to wait until August the 8th. And then today, as if that wasn't enough, the Challenge Tour has kicked off. So much to talk about. Unbelievable, really. So the Challenge Tour now, of course, is split up into two parts to try and help with the travel aspect and people not having to quarantine, because you can't really get away with the elite sportsman type traveling for Challenge Tour because you're not a pro. So half the events, so 12 events are in the UK and 12 events are in Europe, and it's the same prize money. So actually there's a really good opportunity this year to earn a fair amount of money, because of course that's my gripe that I wang on about until it will change, which is that the prize money has not gone up for the Challenge Tour since 2014. Why is that? It's totally unfair, Alex. Trot at the barricades, here we come. So today we've seen the first couple of Challenge Tour events in Europe, and Matt Campbell and Kevin DeWitt won that. And then, of course, the UK Challenge Tour, which I'm hoping to get to, fingers crossed, will be on the 6th of August in the home of World Darts, Milton Keynes. Yeah. And the European and UK development tours are similarly split, and that's on the 20th of August. So what did you make of today?
Well, I've got to say, right from the start, I did not expect to be putting a picture of that gentleman on the left, Matt Campbell, on the screen, because Burton and I, we looked ahead to the start of the Challenge Tour earlier this week, and we were picking out players who we thought could have a good weekend. You know, we're talking the likes of the Rodriguez brothers, players like that, players that went to Q School and got very close to getting tour cards. Matt Campbell was a name that neither of us mentioned because we didn't think we'd see him there. He lives in Canada, of course, and you've only got to hear from what Jeff Smith has gone through in the last 12 months as a PDC tour card holder to get over and play all these events, all the quarantines and stuff. And as you touched on with the prize money in the Challenge Tour, you've really got to get to finals, win titles to make any substantial money to cover the costs for all the travelling and all the quarantine that Matt will probably have to do with this. I'm not quite sure what the situation is now, but if it's similar to what it was recently, then you know it's a lot of money that he's got to pay out. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see him involved in it, and to win a title, I'm not surprised at all because we've seen the quality that he's got. You know, you look at the World Cup last year for Canada, he really impressed in that. The World Championship, the game against Scott Waits, I think all 25 legs were played. It went down to a final leg. He just missed out. Didn't have a great Q score, but we can say that about a lot of players. We tip players to do well at Q school, and for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. And you got to say Matt Campbell's got an excuse, hasn't he? Because he would have had to do all the quarantine and travelling over. It's a lot to do for any player, especially in these times at the minute. So fair play to him for coming over, because it shows you that he's not been put off by the Q school not going well. He's determined to get that tour card, get on the tour. So full credit to him. And I'll just touch on Kevin as well, because he won the last Challenge Tour of 2020, played well at Q school without getting a tour card. He had I think the 6th highest average overall out of all the players, UK and Europe. So he played well without getting a tour card, and he's a player. He's part of Mac Elkin's stable. So if you're part of his stable, you're going to do well. We've seen that in recent times. So yeah, he's a player, young player. I think he's 23, 22, something like that. A lot of potential as well. So good to see him get a title as well. And I want to mention as well, Christian Kist got to the final of the second event, 9 darter in the semi-final, first PDC final in 5 years. And got to say that the injuries that he's had, it's been really tough to see for him, because a former world champion, former Lakeside champion, he deserves a good crack at it, I think. So we're wishing him all the best. Hopefully he can have an injury-free 2021, and we may see him back on the tour next year.
Just a quick note on DeWitt. He's very well known to TCL management. Just to declare my interest, I was obviously freelance for TCL management, and Richie Edhouse in that last Challenge Tour weekend, Richie Edhouse won an event, and that meant he got his card, and then he went on another run in the last event. Who was he playing? Kevin DeWitt, and it was basically he needed to beat DeWitt to win a place at the World Championship.
To finish top, yeah.
To finish top, and DeWitt beat him. Richie Edhouse didn't know that, in fairness, so because the management quite rightly didn't tell, as you would never say. But can you imagine going into that situation? You know,
God. I don't think he knew that he had a tour card either. I remember chatting to him just after the Challenge Tour, and he said after he lost that final, he was really disappointed because he didn't think he'd finished in the top 2, but he did. So he's got his tour card, but unfortunately just missed out on the Worlds.
It's not a bad second prize, in fairness, is it?
I'll take it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So we've covered the tours and the organisation. So now here's an interesting discussion, which I don't think has been touched upon much. So Hipster Darts, as I call it, Hipster Darts. So you've seen the underground bunkers where they play neon pitch and putt and crazy golf and bowling and stuff like that. Well, now, obviously, for last couple of years, Flight Club, and there are more Flight Club venues popping up all over the country. New one in Bristol very shortly. There was certainly one in Birmingham when I was there for work a couple of last year, the year before, and there's been a couple in London. So these photos were taken a few years ago at Unicorn's Next Generation, when Unicorn had it, picking a few darts players out for the future. Can you name any friends of the show there in those photos, Alex, out of interest?
Yeah, of course. We've got Morgan Smith on the left. We've got our episode 1 guest that we had, and of course we've had him on a few times since then, Connor Scott. I think the third one we've not had him on, but Jordan Boyce, I want to say.
Well done. Well done. That's very good. Well done at home if you got them as well. Yes. So, and Jordan Boyce is getting back involved, I'm told. So hopefully we'll see a bit more of him. So I guess really the discussion is it any good, really, and what does it mean for darts as a sport? My thoughts are it's hipster darts because you go in and basically it's technology, so it marks off your scores automatically. You have to throw with their darts, so it picks it off the camera, and and that's the way it works basically. And then it tots up your scores automatically, which is cool, yes. But does it improve grassroots darts? No, is probably the answer, and I'll come on to a bit more on that in a second. But you've been recently.
Yes, yeah, a couple of weeks ago now, I went to one of the ones in London, first time that I've ever been to a flight club, and got to tell our listeners, anyone watching, if you're planning on going to one, do not take your own darts because they will not work in the board, which I found out. I was, looking proper with me dart case, putting me flights in the darts, step up to the hockey, chuck the darts. First 3 darts that I've thrown in a pub, in a bar, whatever, in 2021. First score, no score. Don't count. You have to use the darts that they provide. They're blue darts. I don't know how it all works, but as you say, it's they do the scores automatically in the board, which is a nice touch. But yeah, it's good fun. I think one of the things that puts a lot of people off playing darts maybe is the scoring aspect of it. Is a lot of people don't like to count from 501 down. You don't play that in this. You play different games. You had Killer. There was another one, 180. You've got to score 180. You take it off with each turn, and you've got to finish. You've got to get down to 0 exactly. You can't overscore or you bust. What's the other games? I think there was a Shanghai game as well in there. So various different games, and it is a bit of fun. And like you said, with the golf, you've got various different golf things going on, similar to this, playing like crazy golf and that. I think it is a bit of fun. I think if you're a serious dart player, you'd probably look somewhere else to play your darts and have a practice. But I think to get the casual darts fans involved in the game, and maybe people that don't often play, I think it is it's a nice touch and nice to see more darts venues. But I think for growing the game, grassroots darts side of it, probably not the way to go.
Your Super League team's not going to be based there, is it?
No.
You're not going to see your county rocking up at a flight club. I mean, it's £25 an hour to actually be on one of the boards as well. So it's expensive, and it makes loads of money because you can't get booked in. So this one is in Broadgate in London, which I think is where you went as well. And it was around the corner from where I used to work. So initially there was excitement because I thought, oh, this is great. Then I realised it was £25 an hour, so I'm not paying that, obviously. So I went to the Flying Horse pub around the corner, which had 2 boards free every lunchtime. So that's an insight into my previous career. So yes, there's so that's that aspect. And then of course there's the wider discussion of what this means for the game, and this slide here probably best summarizes it. So this is Riley's Victoria. So there is another flight club launching round the corner from where Riley's Victoria is. Now, anyone that's followed me on Twitter for a number of years will know that I have an affinity with Riley's because I've freelanced for them in terms of their coverage of the UK Open, because that's where UK Open qualifiers for amateurs were always held. On the right is where all these boards were situated. That's what a lot of people are used to seeing. There's Ned Boulting, by the way, there in the bottom right hand corner of that, making his UK Open amateur debut. Unfortunately, they've had or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, they've had a refurb, clearly influenced by the pandemic and influenced by what they do going forwards, and influenced by the fact the flight club, not easy to say, is coming around the corner. And they've renovated it so much so that is a before photo on your right, and that is an after photo on the left. And all the boards are gone, okay, replaced with, a very bright setup a big screen, and then some of the boards, which are flight club style boards, by the way, are down the ends. There's two. So suddenly this mecca for grassroots darts in London, which had 8 boards, has disappeared. And it used to be one of the busiest UK Open amateur qualifiers there were, 150 people turning up for one place at Butlins Minehead. Well, that's no more. And then you have to look at Riley's as a whole. Well, they've lost the Worcester branch and they've lost the Wolverhampton branch as well. So the Wolverhampton was where Fallon Sherrock qualified for it, and one of her achievements, which everyone's forgotten about. But she came through a massive field there to beat all the men again and qualified for the UK Open. But that's no more, and that was a mecca as well. Glenn Dowen used to go and play snooker there at on his days off when he was at the Grand Slam. So that's the effect that Flight Club is having, whether they like it or not. And then the last point I'll make is, well, what happens to UK Open qualifiers now? Because if all those Riley's branches have gone, I think you know what I'm going to say here. If all those Riley's branches have gone, well, how can you have them there? And the answer is MAD, potentially. If I was MAD, I would be writing to the PDC and saying, do you know how many super regions we've got? 16. How many UK Open amateur qualifier spots are there normally? 16. Or in the past, 32. It's not a genius to work out which way this is going. So, it wouldn't surprise me if next year in January, it became down to those super regions and it was up to them only to host their own events at a venue of their choice. And then you get a nice regional mix, because that was the other complaints, of course, that people couldn't get to those events. But anyway, so that's just it's just an interesting knock-on effect of what's going on sort of at a grassroots level.
Yeah, so it's an interesting point and not something that I've really thought about for the last few months since we've had that UK Open, because we didn't have any of the Riley's qualifiers this year, obviously, because we were in the lockdown during the pandemic. But next year, that is something that needs to be discussed, and I'm sure the PDC are looking at that. Maybe it's a little bit lower down on the agenda at the moment, but I'm sure, as you say, Steve Brown, the guys at MAD, will be looking at it, looking at what's happened with that Riley's that you mentioned, and thinking this could be an opportunity for us to really, I guess, add another string to our bow, if you like. All the things that they're looking to put on, we've spoke about in the past, the big events, the title belts, all the other different things they're looking to do. But if they can add, we're going to be the new home of the UK Open qualifiers, it's only a good thing for them. But yeah, I think that's definitely something that we'll need to keep an eye out as we get towards the end of the year and we start to look more towards that UK Open again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just one last point on Flight Club. If I was a YouTuber, and I'm not really a YouTuber, but if I was a YouTuber, I would go undercover. I would take a Super League team or some, people that have some kind of ability, not me, for example, and I would take them and I would go undercover and play and see if you can settle the high scores. That's what I would do. So there we go. You can have that for free, Darts Referee, if you're watching. Nice shirt, by the way, Alex.
Yes, yeah, we've got to support our good friend of the show, Aaron Beanie. Of course, he's I think he was practicing with Jeff Smith in one of the pubs recently I saw on Twitter. So good to see him getting some good practice in with another fellow pro. Obviously, Jeff is still over here. He decided not to do the quarantine between the two Super Series because they're quite close. So yeah, supporting Aaron, and I think we've pretty much gone through everything on this show. So thanks again to you, Matthew. Always appreciate your time. Hope you guys have enjoyed the show. If you've watched this, I think you've got to give it a thumbs up, give it a comment, all them YouTube things. If you prefer to listen, this will be available as a podcast on our feed on the Weekly Darts Cast tomorrow. We'll get out, so Sunday you can have a listen to that. And yeah, I guess we'll get another date in the diary to look back on in a few weeks' time. What's been going on with the WDF, what's been going on with MAD, and hopefully by the time we get to that, we'll be past all the restrictions as well, and we will be able to play darts in pubs and leagues and events and everything will get back going, and we can talk about how bad we are at darts as well.
Yeah, that competition's on, Alex.
Look forward to it. Well, thanks very much again, Matthew, and thanks everyone for listening.